6:32 p.m. on Thursday, June 8th of 2023, and I call to order this general meeting of the Intermediate District 287 School Board. As always, we begin our meetings with a reading of our district's mission statement to help ground us in the work that we have ahead. And one of our newest board members is going to, I don't know if we can still call you that. It's been a few months now.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Please take it away, Renee.
Great, and it's with pleasure that I'll read this tonight. The mission of the Intermediate District 287 is to be the premier provider of innovative specialized services to ensure that each member district can meet the unique learning needs of its students.
Thank you. And would you begin introductions as well?
And I'm Renee Bowman, Robbinsdale Area Schools.
Thank you. Go this way.
This way. I'm Michelle Kuntz, Orono Schools.
Ann Casey, proudly representing St. Louis Park.
I'm Crystal Brackey from Richfield Public Schools.
Sarah Hansen, hi, from Wayzata Public Schools.
Good evening. I'm Heidi Marty with West Tonka Schools.
And I'm Michael Birdman representing Edina Public Schools.
Want to also welcome all of the staff members who are with us here at the table, in the boardroom, and online. Thank you for your presence this evening. And then unable to attend this evening's meeting are board members Jackie Mosqueda Jones, Kim Ross, Shannon Andreessen may participate informally / unofficially. She might choose to just observe via Zoom. So if you see her pop up, know that that's why she's there. And then we think board member Ruthie Dallas is probably en route and will be with us shortly. So with that, we move on to approval of the general meeting agenda this evening. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Renee Bowman and a second by Sarah Johansson. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye, and the agenda is approved. I don't believe we had anybody request to address the board this evening in our open forum time. Thank you, Anin. And then we have a long list of items in our consent agenda tonight. I think, that are related to many of them annual items that come up on the consent agenda, which obviously is routine business items that we pass as a slate, unless there is an item that an individual board member would like removed for consideration and discussion. Looking around, I don't see any. So with that, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion by Michelle Kuntz and a second by Heidi Marty. Any final discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Any
opposed? The chair votes aye, and the consent agenda is approved. We move on to share the success and recognitions, which tonight is a highlight of an above and beyond recipient from the West Education Center. Principal Alexia Poppy Finley is with us online to introduce the recipient. Alexia, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you and good evening. Mr. Henderson is online with us now. Mr. Henderson is our Phy-Ed and Health teacher and case manager at West Education Center. And he is also a proud Grow Your Own, as he was a para that moved into a teaching role and has taken advantage of our Westminster partnership. Mr. Henderson is an amazing case manager and instructor, learns about his students, takes care of his students, collaborates with staff. I don't know if you're going to read the message that was entered in for his nomination. If you could, I think it's phenomenal, and I think it should be read in front of the board. But he is well deserving of this award. So, Mr. Henderson.
Thank you. It sounds like we can have it read. Superintendent Dowd, you going to go ahead and do that for us?
That sounds great. Thank you, Madam Chair. So Mr. Henderson is always positive, joyful, fun, and engaged with all students and staff. He is incredible at meeting students at their level. He is consistently engaged and present with students to the point where he always eats lunch with his students. You can frequently see him running after students who leave the class to check on them and being innovative and getting them to return back to class. He recognizes the individual needs, feelings, accommodations, and desires of each student he works with. As a case manager, he is proactive in being preventative He consistently holds micro teams in order to ensure his students' teams know their plans. He is phenomenal at having consistent and clear communication with students, family, and staff. And overall, Mr. Henderson's positive, proactive, engaging energy is what sets him above and beyond. And it was really fun the other day to honor Mr. Henderson with the staff as they entered in the morning and wondering what was going on. So, it was you. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Ryan, is there anything that you would like to share with us? We're just so excited to be able to recognize you and glad that you're able to spend a little bit of your Thursday night with us.
No, just grateful and feels good to be appreciated. But yeah, there's a lot of people at West Education Center that deserved it and could have got a lot of people working really hard this year, and it's glad. Yeah, I just feel appreciative. So thank you.
Thank you. We so appreciate it. Thanks to both of you representing West Education Center for being with us tonight. Congratulations.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
Have a great summer, both of you. All right. We are going to move on to our Business Services and Labor Relations report, which this evening we have two financial reports. The first is our Food Services Year in Review report. Sarah Schreifels. Yes. Okay. So excited to welcome you back. Always enjoy the time that we have with you where you can highlight the incredible work of you and your team. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Great, thank you. So good evening. As she mentioned, I'm Sarah Schreifels, the Food Service Manager for the district, and I'm happy to be here this evening to share some highlights from this year, as well as our plans for this summer meals and details as we prepare for next school year. So lots ahead. This year we served just over 42,000 student breakfasts and 52,000 student lunches. We were expecting to see meal participation decline this year just due to returning to paid student meals for non-qualifying students. However, we were happy to see that meal count stayed fairly stable, especially at lunch. It's good to see that our families of paid students see the value and quality in the meals that we provide. Due to the return of paid meals for non-qualifying students, just under $13,000 in meal debt accrued this school year on student accounts. Meal debt at the end of the school year is being paid off with some donated funds that we had remaining prior to COVID and the General Education Fund. Per the district's meal debiting procedure, attempts were made to collect payment from families first. Our food service staff take pride in feeding our students healthy and delicious meals every day. Fueling students for academic success is always our goal. We provide a selection of fresh fruits and vegetables daily and vary our menu offerings by utilizing seasonal menus. Again, this year, the food service and facility staff participated in joint monthly racial equity trainings. The trainings were conducted both in person and virtually. Videos, articles, and a new Moodle course were used to train staff and prepare them for small group discussions on various racial equity topics. We will work this summer to determine plans for continued training next school year. Special menu events were hosted this year at all sites, with students voting between new menu items to be served. Guest servers, from principals to even our own superintendent, assisted in serving students the winning selections. Students and staff look forward to these events, and they allow us an opportunity to involve students in menu planning. And some of the special event menus even become permanent additions to our seasonal menu cycles. These chicken wings were a really big hit, so I did all I could to get them on our menu on a more regular basis next school year. We have been awarded a $4,000 farm to school grant to purchase Minnesota grown foods through February of next school year. We will be purchasing Minnesota grown produce, turkey, and as of yesterday, ground beef. They finally found a farmer that only processes Minnesota cows. Crazy, right? So we will be purchasing these items through the Good Acre to utilize all the funds that are available. Recipes containing these Minnesota grown foods will be highlighted on our menus beginning in September. In March, Governor Walz signed the Free School Meals for Kids bill into law. This new program will begin July 1st and provide free breakfast and lunch to all students, no matter their eligibility. The program will operate in conjunction with the USDA National School Breakfast and Lunch Program. The state will cover the costs of reimbursements for paid students that federal funds don't cover. Meal applications will continue to be collected to determine federal funding levels and compensatory revenue funding. The program is permanent, and districts will be required to operate both the National School Breakfast and Lunch programs. To assist the state in being fiscally responsible with this new program, districts that qualify will be required to operate under the USDA Community Eligibility Program, which 4 of our sites qualify for and will begin to operate under next year. As part of USDA's transitional nutrition standards, we will be required to implement sodium standard 1A next school year. This will lower sodium by about 140 milligrams at lunch, but maintain current breakfast standards. Higher sodium lunches will need to be cut from menus or reworked with lower sodium ingredients as they become available from manufacturers. USDA has also proposed additional changes to nutrition standards that could be implemented in the next 2 to 4 school years. Proposed changes would continue to reduce sodium standards by up to an additional 30%, limit sugar, flavored milk, and decrease flexibilities in whole grain offerings. It would also strengthen Buy American provisions. USDA provided a comment period on these proposed changes and will publish a final rule next year. We will begin serving free summer meals to ALC students and community youth 18 and under on Monday. Meals will be provided at North, South, and West Education Centers over the summer and are open to community participation. The schedules and meal times have been aligned with our summer school programming. Free meals will also be provided to ESY students only at Ann Bremmer Education Center in July, as Ann Bremmer doesn't qualify for the free community meal program. Information about our free summer meals program, as well as a free meals finder, has been shared with district families so that they may find and access free meals in their local communities this summer. I want to thank you for your time this evening and for your continued support as we work to navigate through the continuing MDE and USDA program changes. I am proud of all of the work our food service team has accomplished and look forward to continuing to lead our team into next school year. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have at this time.
Thank you, Sarah. We know there are so many changes that are happening in this particular area and so much that is still being figured out. So it's a tremendous amount of work for you and your team, and we appreciate you navigating it on behalf of all of our kids and families. Questions, comments from the board?
Well, I just have one, and that would be, as we're in this time of transition, if we could make sure that we have these updates from the nutrition people, because I think it's a great learning experience for me to hear what's going on elsewhere. And I would love to continue to learn from you as we walk through the new changes, legislative changes. So
Yeah,
very
yeah,
good
and we have
report.
been updating the board reports whenever new information is coming out from USDA. So that's a great place to look to for any updates from us.
Great.
Yeah.
Michael?
I just had a question about the staff. How, I know if I remember correctly, at the beginning of the year, there were we had some maybe shortages in staff, or where there was a concern about that. I know we were working through our contract and we got that settled. But did you maintain staff throughout what your needs were throughout the year? And I mean, are you retaining your staff that you need to have
Sure.
to be successful?
I don't think we had any staffing issues at the beginning of the year.
Okay, maybe
There
I'm-
were some issues with implementing a new food vendor.
Okay.
Due to some vendor changes. Our staffing throughout the year was fairly stable until February, when we did have a staff member who was out on a very extended medical leave. So then our subs were all kind of thrown into the loop, and we kind of survived till the end of the year. That particular staff member has resigned, and so we will be replacing them this summer.
Okay,
But otherwise, we're fairly stable.
good.
I
Thank
kick
you.
in when needed.
Well, kudos to all of them.
I just want to say,
Yeah, go ahead.
double the kudos. The food looks great.
I know.
So like,
Chicken wings.
that's yeah, that's the money quote today. It's like, that food looks amazing. So thank you for all of your
Thank
work.
you.
I have a couple questions as well. You mentioned that 4 of our sites qualify for the community provision, but ABEC is not one of them. So what is the 4th?
So actually ABEC
Okay.
is one of them. ABEC doesn't qualify for the summer food service program. It's in this little tiny pocket that is right outside. It's in Osceo's area. For whatever reason, this little pocket neighborhood has never qualified, and we've tried a million ways to Tuesday to get it to qualify, and MDE has never done that. So they do qualify for the community eligibility program. The program that does not qualify is our Headway program, which is a care and treatment program that will be in our Hopkins building next year. It houses usually 30 students, but they're doing some combining next year, so there may be more students there. However, they'll still receive free meals just based off of the other program that's being implemented. But our other 4 sites do qualify for CEP due to a new Medicaid program that was rolled out this year.
Then my second question is something that I know was discussed a lot during the legislative session as these changes were being made, which is the compensatory funding impact. And maybe this is a question for May.
Yeah.
But I know that things have been put in place to protect districts for 2 years, but I'm curious what the compensatory impact could be for our district, because I know for my home district in Richfield, it's millions of dollars potentially.
Yeah, I mean, May can answer some of that. I do know that MDE is trying to work on a solution to ensure that after that 2 years, we still aren't impacted. They just don't know what that solution is yet, but I'll let May kind of address the rest
I
of
have a
that.
feeling more answers will come in the future.
Yeah.
As Sarah talked about, so the community eligibility program is based on direct certifications of students, right? And that's what the new compensatory ed will be based on as well. So the fact that 4 of our sites are between 50 or actually above 50% direct certification.
Yeah.
Right? Means that we're probably in a better place than many K-12 districts.
Absolutely.
So
I guess maybe my question is how much compensatory funding do we currently receive in the quote unquote old model that we know is not going to be the new model?
So we currently receive like 1.7 million. When we were in the pandemic, right, and everybody got free meals and our applications dropped, that number went down by about 400,000.
Okay, that's
So
helpful.
that kind of gives us an idea of what that impact might be.
Yep, very much. Thank you.
This Medicaid program that was just implemented will help significantly. So this was the first year that students who receive Medicaid could directly certify. And so that program alone, normally our percents aren't high enough to qualify for CEP, but just because of that, it ended up qualifying 4 of our sites. So very few of our students qualify based off of just an application anymore. So our compensatory funding is in a better spot because of that.
So glad to hear that. That's good. Any final questions or comments? Michelle, go ahead.
I want to thank you for all you've done in the realm of food and food delivery, making it interesting for students and maybe for teachers too. I assume some will eat the same food, and so yeah, thank you very, very much. It's not easy. And
it's been a couple of years of craziness. Yeah.
Knock on wood.
Right?
Be a little bit calmer.
Oh,
I think that's it. Thank you so much,
okay,
Sarah.
thank you.
So we move on to the resolution, which is related to our food service. And May Hawkins, our Executive Director of Business Services, is going to overview the resolution for us.
Just a real brief overview because we just covered most of what's in here. So good evening, Chair and board members. So the resolution in front of you basically authorizes us to run the food services program, states that we're going to do that within all the guidelines of USDA. You won't see any student meal prices on here because of what we just talked about with all student meals being free. There are still adult meal prices on here that we need to set as a board. And it also talks about like if you're going to do an additional milk, what that's going to be. and the community eligibility provision that we just spoke about. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Thank you, May. Any questions about the resolution? I don't see any. So with that, is there a motion to waive the reading and approve the annual food service program resolution as presented?
I so move. Second.
We have a motion by Sarah Johansson and a second by Heidi Marty. Any final discussion? As a resolution, our acting clerk will pull the board.
Birdman,
Aye.
Bowman,
I,
Radke,
Aye.
Casey is an aye. Dallas,
Aye.
Johansson,
Aye.
Coons,
Aye.
Marty.
Aye.
And that's everyone.
Feels like we're ending very early in the alphabet this evening. All right, the resolution passes. Thank you so much. We are moving into the board business section of the agenda. There are a couple of items in the chair report that I'll share. The first is a request for action, which is renewing our membership and our dues that we pay for a number of different institutions. So you can see the full list in our board packet, along with the membership fee for this past year and what the fee would be for this coming year. And actually, prior to the board meeting, we were talking about the fact that there has been the sort of schism at the national level of the two different associations that are supporting school boards, and that we don't need to belong to either of the two of them. That we are members of MSBA, we are members of AMSD, and so we talked about perhaps we actually not renew the National School Board Association membership this year. And again, just sort of assess, is there one of those institutions that would best meet our needs? Do we not feel like we need to be part of either of the national organizations because we have the state representation through MSBA? And frankly, it's, $2,500 that we could use for other purposes. So I certainly am feeling somewhat compelled to remove the National School Boards Association, but wanted to open that up for discussion before we take action on the proposed annual organizational memberships tonight. Would love to hear any thoughts or concerns. Ruthie, yes.
I personally like the national organizations. Well, you do have the national. You're saying if you take it off,
Yes.
will we have concerns?
Ye-
That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fine.
I think part of my concern comes in is it's not really clear which organization is maybe the best fit for us as a district right now. And so I would be interested in seeing, is there one that we think we should be a part of instead of automatically renewing in the National School Board Association? Does that make sense? Renee?
if you're looking for feedback from board members, I like your idea about finding out which is the best fit and
Yeah.
which organization do we work with in more of a daily operational basis? Which is the one that's going to keep us in line with what we need to do here for compliance in the state of Minnesota? And I think it makes a really strong case that it's okay to take a break from the national memberships, knowing that there's always an option to go back. But I've always thought that it's rather redundant that we would be memberships of both, particularly in light of the fact that we do have state representation at the national level through our state organization. So that's my 3 cents.
Thank you. Michael?
Have we as a district been participating in national organized meetings, events, conferences, education processes, whatever it is, that by not continuing on with that membership would be somewhat detrimental or not as helpful compared to where we are today?
I will look at other staff to see if they have more history than I do, but my recollection is that the main connection with the National School Board Association has been a number of years ago. There might have been a board member who went to the National School Board Association conference through Intermediate District 287 instead of through their home district. And so our district paid for the cost of that. They attended as a 287 representative. And I think the important distinction is you can still attend if your district does not have a membership. It's just a higher cost by a few $100s. So that again would make me think, is it, if that is the main benefit, is it worth $2,500 as opposed to a few $100s if somebody wants to attend the conference representing our districts? But are there other ways that we have engaged with the National School Board Association besides that?
Not to my knowledge, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Well, based off of that, then I would say I would holistically agree with taking a pause and no longer participating for the time being, and then see what's missed.
Yeah,
If it's not
exactly.
missed, then it's the right decision. If something's missed, we can always come back.
Yeah.
And that says you can't.
I think it would be helpful to see the benefits of the different organizations too. Go ahead.
Well, I was wondering if any board members had like been to events. Has anyone gone to COSPRA or I was at an NSBA conference a long time ago, but since this has happened, is there anyone who has like experience with both that could kind of compare? But
Well, they just had their first conference in the spring.
Right,
Was
okay.
anybody there?
I didn't go to
not this
Yeah.
year. Okay.
Previously, I have.
Yeah.
So,
I was at the National School Board Association conference this spring,
okay.
but not the new one. And that's
Okay.
what's tricky is keeping track of the
Right.
two, that we have two different organizations theoretically doing the same thing right now.
I guess the question, other question would be, is there anything specific in that organization that is more geared towards intermediate school districts like ours versus our home districts?
I don't believe so.
No, in fact, this is like a unique kind of situation that we have in this state that
Yeah.
doesn't really,
Right.
doesn't really apply in
Yeah.
other places.
Because I know at least in Edina, I mean, while I think Dr. Stanley has certainly participated in some of these programs, we've also made a decision this last couple of years where we've chosen not to do that for the purpose of not using our funds for that purpose
Right.
for other things. So in Edina, we've already kind of taken this approach from that standpoint, knowing that we can always change it in the future, but for the time being where our priorities were, this is where we went with.
Sarah?
Yeah, I'll just share. I'm in alignment with everything that's been talked about. I think it's really wise to sit back and see what the Minnesota School Boards Association, where they are leaning towards their efforts, and then what information we will get from them, and then how that lines up with COSBA or NSBA. So, yes.
Okay. All right, so with that, I will make the motion because I am the one who sort of suggested the change. That we approve the renewals of institutional memberships and dues to the following organizations in our board packet, with the exception of the National School Boards Association. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion by Crystal Brackey, a second by Michelle Coons. Any final discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? You're opposed, Ruthie? Okay. The chair votes aye and the motion passes. The couple other items that I wanted to highlight, a huge appreciation to Ann Becker for flagging something that I think has not yet made its way into the atmosphere from the legislative session, which is that the legislature did update the statute about open meeting law and virtual participation in public meetings. So it is going to allow for more flexibility for board members to participate virtually without meeting all of the currently existing criteria for being accessible or in a public place, is my understanding. And I think it specifies that board members can do that up to 3 times a year, if I'm remembering correctly. But regardless, this is a change that, will affect all of our districts. And so we have a board policy here that governs open meeting law. And so I think what our next step should be is to add that to the board policies that our ad hoc committee is going to be looking at, and really looking at this new statute and determining any recommendations that we think we should change to our policies as a result. Is there anything that you want to share related to that, or anything I might have misrepresented?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I would just add that it takes away the requirement that there be a Chapter 12 emergency, such as a pandemic, in order to be able to take advantage of that option.
Great. That's really helpful. And so, yeah, an example was, Shannon saying tonight that she could participate virtually, but we knew that it would still be unofficial because of our current policy. So just know that that has happened. And I assume we'll all be getting more information about it from MSBA, but that we will work on it for our intermediate District 287 specifically. And then the last thing I wanted to flag is just a repeat from our last meeting. There is the conflict of interest form that our auditors need from every board meeting. So if you have not yet filled that out, it should be in front of you, and just please make sure that it gets into Juanine's hands by the end of the evening. I think that is it as far as chair report. We will move to once around the table as far as things that board members may want to share with one another before we move into our closed session for the evening. Anything? Michael.
Well,
please.
go without an opportunity. I got to participate in both the Ann Bremmer's transition graduation and then also at the South Education Center yesterday. What a privilege that was, especially at Ann Bremmer. Not to take anything away from South Education, but Ann Bremmer put on a real show for its transition students. And I commented, I think, to Crystal when we were sitting there, because I had just come from Edina's the night before, which was this big production and so on and so forth, that had a lot less livelihood to it in terms of energy and so on and so forth. That I thought that the programs were very, not only personal, but very high energy and very impactful, I think, for each student. And so I really appreciated that opportunity. And so it gave me sort of some insight as to how that works. And then, of course, seeing the smiles of any graduate is, I think, what makes all of this worth it. So I just wanted to at least call that out. So thank you.
Michelle.
Yeah, I'm with you, Mike. I really appreciate that we learn just a tidbit of information from each student. And just to hear it, see their faces, it is truly a privilege, but it is so respectful of the student and what they went through to get where they are now. So thank you, everyone who put this together. We've always done a really great job, I think.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say it was a privilege for me to be there at the graduation from North Education Center and to see the energy and the involvement of the parents and families of those graduates. And NEC is pretty, I guess, somewhat small, and to have 30 graduates, I thought was fantastic. So I was really glad to be there and to see the diversity in the graduates too. So looks like things are changing a little. Maybe we won't need to go to the national. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It was really beautiful. And I loved how each building had its own feel and its own culture, which I think speaks to the importance of each one of those being their own distinct site that represents the students and what the students want and need. But I know a few of us chatted about this throughout the course of different ceremonies, but it just allows the kids to be who they are. It's not trying to force something that wouldn't actually work for our graduates. And it was really special. And I can only imagine how much work goes into pulling all of those off, especially when we're talking multiple ceremonies in the same day at the same site. So I hope that everybody involved, including people in this room, are going to get some good rest and some good recovery time after such joyful events.
Maybe one thing I'll add is that the thing that was also amazing that I noticed was the staff members who then were with their students, guiding them through that process. And so you could see the care and the focus and the just the attention that's given to that. So even though we don't necessarily always get to see that, even on get on the bus, we might not always get to see that. You get to see it in that. It was only a few minutes, but you could see how clearly it was. And I remember commenting that how it must be both amazing and bittersweet for the staff to see certain kids transition out or graduate out and so on and so forth, that they've put all this effort and care into. And it must be proud, but also just like anything, you're losing kind of a kid at the same time. That must be there. And so I wanted to honor that level of commitment from our team was palpable.
Yes. There's a depth of relationship.
There really
that
was.
Really jumps out at you, for sure.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I would
Anne,
just like to
yes.
add, this is small, but that I love what you said, Michael, and I felt it too. There was a student who graduated yesterday at HTC who had presented to us on the bus, and so I recognized her and remembered her, which was awesome because we kind of pop in and out. We don't necessarily get to, as board members, make relationships with students, but it was really fun to hear about her and what she was going to go on and do in the future. So.
That reminds me, one of the graduation speakers at North also shared with us at the North Get on the
That's right.
Bus and was amazing. And it was a poem.
Right.
And I think the superintendent is going to share it with us in your email tomorrow.
Hopefully.
So please
get
keep your eyes out for that because it was beautiful. It was really great. All right. So with that, we have reached the closed session. And just for any viewers, know that this will be the last thing that we do before we come back and officially adjourn the meeting. So the live stream will end as soon as we move into closed session. This closed session is specifically for the purpose of the superintendent evaluation. Minnesota statute section 13D.05 subdivision 3D allows the board to have a closed meeting to evaluate the performance of the superintendent. And the board chair will share a summary of that evaluation and present it in public at the board's next regular meeting. So that will be at our meeting, I think it's June 22nd. Thank you, June 22nd. I was not going to say the right date. So with that, do we have a motion to move into closed session for purposes of the superintendent evaluation?
Second.
We have a motion by Heidi Marty and a second by Michelle Coombs. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye. At 7:09, we will take a brief pause to allow our team to go home, enjoy your evening with the exception of Superintendent Dowd. And then we will begin the closed session in a few moments. Thank you.